Good morning, and welcome to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
We welcome you to Talk of the Town for this Friday, May the 8th. I'm Gary Stevens. We'll be open line following the 10 and 11 o'clock news blocks. Patty Vandenberg will be joining us a little less than an hour with what's new around Holland. And we hope to have Allegan County Commissioners Jim Story and Dean Cappinga for their monthly contributions on the second Friday of the month with the Allegan County Board, and we'll have them in the 10:30 segment. But on the second Friday of the month on Talk of the Town, our first segment is Ask the Attorney. Under normal circumstances, it's a case for you to ask questions of one of the two attorneys that come on an alternating month basis, Ken Pizicki of Ken Pizicki Law and Nathan Bocks from Central Park Law, to talk about how you handle probate, how you handle non-criminal questions about the law. But May is usually Nathan Bocks' month. We know, of course, that Nathan Bocks is the mayor of the city of Holland. We'll try to limit our questions about that aspect and stay on the legal aspects as we are joined by Nathan Bocks in his office via Zoom connection. Good morning, Nathan. Glad you can join us this morning.
Good morning, Gary. Thanks for having me.
Glad you are with us. And unfortunately, those of you listening, you can't get in on the Zoom, but you can get on with our regular ways of doing it at 395-1450, 395-1450. I do need to ask you, as the news director, a couple of mayoral questions, and then we can get to some of the legal questions. And frankly, legal questions do have some good merit on it because of the situation we are all in. First of all, last week, you sent out a video message basically telling visitors, don't come to Holland this year. We just can't accommodate you. I equate that to a character in Seinfeld. I won't explain what the character is, but no soup for you. And I sort of used it as no tulips for you. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately to a certain extent, a lot of people are following it. But we got a lot of people in town this week to take a look at the flowers anyway. Disappointed? Surprised, unsurprised? What reaction comes from you with seeing a lot of vehicles with not Michigan license plates in town right now?
Yeah, Gary, you know that in any other year, I'm the first one to say, come and visit Holland, come see our tulips, enjoy our beautiful community. We just want to make sure that we're keeping the numbers down as much as we possibly can. On a typical year, we get 300 to 500,000 people in Holland over the course of the Tulip Time Week, and we just, A, don't have the space, B, don't have the facilities to be able to accommodate anywhere near that number of people this year. And so we wanted to do the best that we could to try to keep those numbers down. We know that not everybody is going to follow that request. We know that people still had plans, and we also know that not necessarily all of those out-of-state license plates are people that have actually traveled here from out of state. We know that there are people who are snowbirds who keep their cars registered in other states that come here. But overall, we've been pretty happy about how the numbers have stayed down this year. And we've seen an increase in the number of locals that are going to places like Windmill Island Gardens and Window on the Waterfront. Now, one of the things that we took note of, especially last weekend, were the much larger than normal number of bicycles that were in each one of those parks, that families took the time to bicycle down there to be able to see the tulips without the normal crowds that are there. And we actually encourage that under the governor's order. She would like to see people get out, get some sunshine, get some fresh air. We all know that that's good for our physical and our mental health, especially when we've been spending much more time isolated and at home these days. It's good to see that the locals are getting out there. And my understanding from the reports that I've received, most people are doing a pretty good job with the social distancing. Obviously, not everybody is perfect with that. We're trying to help with the educational aspect of that. But there's a lot of space. We've kept those parks open so that we can have as much space as possible for people.
All right. If you have a question for Nathan Bocks, we'll try to keep it on the legal side. Nathan Bocks from Central Park Law. He'll be happy to answer it at 395-1450, 395-1450. As one who is an advisor, a counselor at law, if you want to use that term, one of the things I've been hearing on a regular basis throughout the situation that we're in right now, this is maybe a wake-up call. Get your legal papers in order if something happens. more than anything else, this is the time to prevent issues with probate if unfortunately something does happen to you. Have you seen a little bit of a spike in people trying to contact Central Park Law to get those documents taken care of?
We actually have not. I'm a small business owner, just like many in the community in the country that has been greatly affected by COVID-19. I'm actually here in my office. I'm the only one that's been here in the office for at least the last 6 weeks. I walk in the morning and I lock the door behind me. I'm not allowed under the governor's order to meet directly with clients at this point. Any meetings that I do have to either be by telephone or by Zoom meeting. I do these types of meetings with clients as well. That creates some logistical issues with signing documents. The state of Michigan has allowed the electronic signing of contracts and other documents for 20 years now. The Electronic Signature Act has been in place, and we all are very comfortable with, signing receipts at Myers and other things electronically. One of the things that you cannot legally sign electronically are estate planning documents. A will or a trust or the power of attorney needs what is referred to as a wet ink signature. And some of those actually require, many of them actually require witnesses, notarization. And while Michigan also does have a relatively new electronic notarization law, it did not apply to estate planning documents. And so initially, for the first several weeks of the shutdown, I was able to prepare documents for clients, but we weren't able to get them signed or executed. The law has loosened up a little bit for attorneys recently, and I am able to now do signing of documents with clients through a Zoom meeting like this, as long as I'm able to see them by video, sign the documents, and then I can notarize the documents that way. But I have clients, much of my client base is older, that don't have computers with video cameras in them. They're not comfortable with the technology. So we have actually quite a few estate plans that are out there that have not been able to be signed yet because we have not been able to work it out logistically to get them signed.
And it sounds like as if once some of these restrictions do get lessened as these phases go in with what the governor has said, might be like a whoosh, a big groundswell of people coming in and needing things signed, and might be quiet now, may not be so quiet in a little bit.
Exactly. We're gearing up for that, and we've been working really hard. And when I say we at my office, I mean me. Most of the listeners know I run a one-man operation here. So I've been working diligently in the background trying to get the technology as easy as possible to use for clients. But there is still some resistance to that. One of the things that we're expecting to see in the long run are more and more people who are interested in continuing to do their legal work and their meeting with attorneys and other professionals electronically in this way. Once they've adapted to it and been forced to use it through this, they get comfortable with it. And so we're expecting we're going to be seeing more and more of these types of meetings. But frankly, I'm very excited about having clients come into the office and meet with them face to face again. I've got the ability to be able to do the social distancing here. We have masks available, but under the governor's order, I'm not allowed to meet directly with clients right now.
If you got a question for attorney Nathan Bocks of Central Park Law here in Holland, he'll be happy to answer it at 395-1450, 395-1450. Keep in mind, and we've talked about this before, Nathan is not a financial advisor, and you have, of course, at your fingertips, or at least references to those that have worked with you in terms of the financial services aspect of that. But you are also involved with some of the legal things for many businesses, many small businesses, many businesses in this area. Hate to ask this type of question, but I need to ask this as well. Have you been fielding calls from some businesses who are saying, hey, listen, if this continues on and on and on in terms of the stay home, stay safe, or now safer at home executive order, we could, may have to start thinking about having Chapter 11 protection, Chapter 13 perhaps, Chapter 7, all the bankruptcy protections, and that would involve having a counselor at law helping them out. Have you seen a little bit of a concern in that regard?
We've seen a lot of concern from our small business owners about what their future looks like, trying to get themselves through this process and then what the rebuilding process looks like on the other end. I don't do bankruptcy here at my office, but I do counsel an awful lot of small businesses. One of the major concerns that they have had is the difficulty that they've had in accessing the funding sources that have been put out there and made available by the federal government. I was very pleased this morning to get the same email that you received from the Chamber of Commerce, and that the Chamber of Commerce and the Community Foundation are going to be working with local small businesses in the Holland Zeeland area to try to help get them some direct local relief. We want to try to make sure that as many of our local businesses are able to survive this and then be able to rebuild on the back end of this. Many are holding on by their fingertips at this point, waiting and hoping that that business picks up again. And we've been trying to walk them through the best things that they can do to be able to survive through this process.
Yeah, it's. I don't want to say we're going through uncharted waters. To a certain extent, we are, because of the nature of the pandemic. The fact that a lot of businesses are shutting down, not because of financial situations, but because of health concerns. But then there are some precedents, I should say, that can be followed. We had a little bit with that, in the recession of 11, 12 years ago. Some might want to say, go back to the 1930s. I hope not, but certainly there are some general patterns, I would say is the best way of putting it, Nathan, that we could see as saying, okay, this is what happened, this, and this. We can plan accordingly, this, and this, even though some of the circumstances, especially right now, far, far different.
Yeah, there's some optimism out there as well. One of the things that I've been really impressed with is how the local business community has come together and has been working together to try to find solutions that will work for more than one. They have not taken the I'm in this for myself and I'm going to do everything I can to help my own business. They're really looking out for each other. Through our Downtown Development Authority and through our Principal Shopping District, and then through just groups of business owners as well. They're looking at ways to be able to communally get themselves through this process. There's been talk about, are there ways that we can adapt downtown to make it more amenable to the takeout businesses or the takeout restaurants that are down there, for the pickup services that a lot of the downtown businesses have. They're meeting not only through the chamber, but also through Lakeshore Advantage and through groups that are meeting in Zoom meetings, saying, how do we as small businesses help each other through this? And I think that's a really important point for the people of Holland to understand, that we are all in this together, and that the solutions that we're going to come up with to be able to get through this are ones that we're going to have to work with together.
395-1450. If you have a question for Nathan Bocks, attorney at law with Central Park Law here in Holland, he'll be happy to answer it at 395-1450. Let me go a little bit off of the beaten trail and away from COVID-19 or estate planning. You do consult with businesses. You say you don't do bankruptcies, but do you help, say, a young, we'll use the term young, maybe not in age, but maybe a person that wants to get started out in business? Do you work along with them to try to negotiate the hurdles that need to be taken care of?
I do quite a bit of that. And actually, that's one of the things that has been a pleasant surprise in this process, is the number of small businesses that have started during this, where folks who may have been laid off or may have been working from home, taking advantage of the extra time and the opportunity that they have to be able to start working toward that dream that they've had over the years to start their own small business, whether it's something that they're able to do in their home right now to generate a little bit of extra income, or something that they're looking to possibly transition to in the days after COVID-19. And they're saying, okay, I have the time right now, and I have the ability right now to start laying the groundwork and putting a good foundation down for this business that I hope is going to take off in the days to come. And that's been very encouraging.
Yeah, the reason why I want to bring that up, because sometimes it's overlooked. Even during if we were under normal circumstances, Nathan, and we didn't have this COVID-19 situation where, it takes all the oxygen out of the room, literally. But if we were talking about somebody that wanted to start their own business to better themselves instead of relying on a paycheck, relying on their own work, I want to continue on that line in a few moments, but I do want to get to a call. Good morning. You're on the line with attorney Nathan Bocks.
Morning. I got a question for Nathan. Okay.
Yes.
I moved here from Illinois. And in Illinois, I had a living will that stated under my signature, I don't want life support, I don't want to be on a respirator or anything like that. Well, and when I had my estate set up in Michigan, they said, you want a durable power of attorney. It's better. And I understand it's better. But if I get taken in the emergency room or something, and I don't want to be on life support, does my signee have to verbally tell the hospital don't do any of that stuff, or how does it work?
That is typically the way that it works in Michigan. Most of the documents and the forms that we use for those use a hybrid approach. There's the power of attorney approach, where you are naming someone else to make medical care decisions for you if you cannot make them on your own. But then it also generally gives you the ability to provide some guidance in regard to end of life decisions. So giving them some idea of when you may want to be let go, when you might not want to be let go. But ultimately the decision then comes down to the person that you have designated to make the medical care decisions for you. And you may think, well, I want to make sure that it is absolutely done under these circumstances. That's a good thing to think about in theory, but in practice, generally what happens is the exact circumstances that you may have been considering aren't what actually occurs. And there needs to be some discretion, and there needs to be some thought put into how does what I know that this person wanted fit into the circumstances that we have here. And that's why Michigan likes that or prefers that power of attorney approach, because it gives someone who knows you, someone who you trust, and someone who cares about you the ability to be able to make the decision that they think that you would make under that particular set of circumstances.
Well, I know my signees, they know what I want. They know I don't want to be on life support and stuff like that. But we'll say you're taken in, and 6 hours later they finally get a hold of the person, and you're already on a ventilator. Do they just pull the plug on you or something, or what? I mean,
there's a common
I had my stuff registered at each hospital. I was taking it. They could do it on the computer, and it'd be fine and dandy. They just would do it. But here it's different.
Yes, there's a common misconception that once you're put on a ventilator that you can't be taken off. That's not true. You can be taken off. One of the things that I always try to stress with clients about this is we don't want to rush into these decisions. The decision to let you go is permanent. The decision to keep you alive is temporary. So just because they may take that extra few hours to find that person who's going to ultimately make that decision, those few hours can make the difference between making the wrong decision and making the right decision. Keeping you alive for 6 hours and then taking you off, if that's the right thing to do, I think is less of a problem than letting you go in a circumstance where you might not have wanted to be let go.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for the help.
Thank you very much for the call. 395-1450, 395-1450. Nathan, before we had the phone call, I wanted to talk a little bit about starting up businesses and some of the hurdles and maybe some of the common mistakes, legal mistakes new entrepreneurs have that, let's put it this way, can be easily corrected.
Yeah, there are 3 areas that I always recommend that small business owners talk about before they start that new small business. 3 professionals that they should talk to, and actually, well, maybe 4 professionals that they should talk to. One, obviously, is an attorney to make sure that they've got the legal aspects covered, and we'll come back to that in a moment. They want to talk to an accountant to make sure that they get their books in order and that they're doing the things that they need to do correctly in regard to taxes, in regard to payroll if they have employees. And a good accountant can also help them save money in the long run in terms of how the business is set up. They want to talk to a banker, obviously, if they're going to be looking at doing any kind of lending or making sure that they've got a line of credit, and then an insurance agent. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that if you're operating a business, that business can generate liability, and you need to make sure that you've got insurance coverage with that. You can start at any one of those 4 places, and they usually end up leading you to the other 3. I've had clients come to me before with what they think is a great idea, and after they talk to me, I send them to the insurance agent or to the accountant, and they come back and they say, that idea that I thought was a great idea, I either can't make any money on that deal, or the insurance that I'd have to pay is so high. And a great example of that was I had a gentleman who thought it would be a great idea to make dune buggies for the sand dunes up at Silver Lake. He had made one for himself, and the other people who wanted to have him make them for him. And I said, you probably ought to talk to an insurance agent before you get too far down the road with this. And he found out the insurance that he would have to pay in order to cover the potential liability for creating these dune buggies that were going to be flying around the sand dunes at Silver Lake would be so outrageously high that he'd never make a penny on the deal at all. And so it is important that you get those ducks in a row before you get too far down the road in making a decision if you want to move forward.
Now, does that change, or how much of that changes the parameters between one who wants to start an online business and one who wants to start the traditional brick and mortar business?
A lot of those same rules apply. Again, one of the first things that I think about when a client comes to me and talking about the small business is I start racking my brain and thinking of all of the areas where this person might end up having legal liability for it. Now, if you're doing something simple like, you're making COVID-19 masks at home and you want to sell them on Etsy, probably not a huge amount of liability there in doing that if you're just doing a simple cloth mask, but certainly more than if you were going to use those same sewing skills and make doll clothing. Because now there may be an expectation that these masks that you're creating might actually provide some sort of health benefits. So we have to look at disclaimers and those types of things. And regardless of whether you sell those things online or you sell them brick and mortar, there are still going to be those same kind of liability issues. However, as soon as you have a brick and mortar store, you've got all kinds of additional costs involved, as well as the additional liability of having customers come into your place of business. I run a law office here. I've got a walkway that people come in the wintertime. I've got sidewalk. I need to make sure that sidewalk is cleared and salted all of the time, because I not only have to worry about the liability that I generate by doing my legal work, I have to worry about somebody slipping and falling in the parking lot. And so there are additional liability issues that come in if you've got a brick and mortar place.
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of bring this new aspect because more and more people are being entrepreneurs. You brought it up right there, Nathan, trying to do something online. And again, the overhead is not as much, but there's still some challenges, not only with incorporation, whether or not you want to be an LLC or you want to have many different ways. And if we had more time, we can go into it a little bit further. But Nathan, I want to thank you very much for joining us today on our Talk of the Town, Ask the Attorney segment. Again, it's Central Park Law. The website is centralpark.law. That's the way to get a hold of Nathan with his day job. And we look forward to chatting with Ken Bazicki next month and with you in the month of July. Hopefully we'll be able to talk about being out and about a lot more than we are right now. Nathan, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me again.
That is Nathan Bocks, attorney at law, and our Ask the Attorney segment on WHTC's Talk of the Town program.